Sorry, I'm late. It's heavy traffic, man. 121 in the day. Okay. You already read?
No.
Oh, right. I guess we haven't. Not of it. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Raja Janna Ranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janna Ranjana Samunatira Vanachari Samunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7. And we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 3 and 1. 3 verses all at once. Well, one after another, but all together. Sanskrit translation and purport. Vedaham anga paramasya yogamayam. Yuyam bhavascha bhagavan atadaitavaya. Patni mano sacha manuscha taratmajascha. Prachina bahirivuranga utajubascha. Ikshvakar aila muchukunda videha gadhi. Ragrambarisha sagara gayana husatya. Mandatrialaka satandan vanurantin rantideva. Deva vrato baliramrtayaro dilipa. Subhayutanka shibideva lapi palata. Sarasvato dava parashara purishena. Yenye vibhashana hanumarupendra datta. Partarshite shena vidarashuta deva bhaya. Okay, so we'll do the word for word together. Veda, know it. Aham, myself. Anga, O Narada. Paramasya, of the Supreme. He, certainly. Yoga Mayam, potency. Yuyam, yourself. Bhavaha, Shiva. Cha, and. Bhagavan, the great demigod. Atta, as also. Daitavaya, Prahlad Maharaj. The great devotee of the Lord, family of an atheist. Patni Shatarupa Manu of Manu Saha He Cha also Manu Swayambhuva Cha and Tat Atmaja Cha and his children like Priyavrata, Uttanapa, Devahuti, etc. Prachina Barhi Ribu, Ribu, Anga, Anga, Utta, even, Dhruva, Dhruva, Cha, Ian, Ikshvaku, Ikshvaku, Aila, Aila, Muchukunda, Muchukunda, Videha, Maharaj Janaka, Gadhi, Gadhi, Nasu, Nahusa, Amrish, Sagara, Sagara, Gaya, Gaya, Nahusha, Nahusha, Aja, and so on. Mandachi, Mandata, Alaka, Alaka, Shatanu, Shatadanu, Anu, Anu, Rantideva, Rantideva, Devaprastha, Bhishma, Bali, Bali, Amritaraya, Amritaraya, Dalipa, Dalipa, Sabari, Sabari, Utanka, Utanka, Shiba, Shibi, Devala, Devala, Pipalada, Pipalada, Saraswata, Saraswata, Udava, Udava, Parishara, Parishara, Purishenaha, Purishena, Yea, Tosu, Anye, others, Vibhishana, Vibhishana, Hanuman, Hanuman, Upanjayadata, Shukdev Goswami, Partha, Arjuna, Artishena, Artishena, Vidura, Vidura, Shrutadeva, Shrutadeva, Varyaha, the foremost. Yeah. Okay. O Narada, although the potencies of the Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, still, because we are all surrendered souls, we know how he acts through Yogamaya potencies. And similarly, the potencies of the Lord are also known to the all-power Shiva, the great king of the atheist family, namely Prahlad Maharaj, Swayambhuva Manu, his wife Shatarupa, his sons and daughters like Priyavrata, Uttanapad, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti, Prachina Barhi, Ribu, Anga, the father of Vena, Maharaj Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Uchukunda, Maharaj Janaka, Gadhi, Raghu, Ambarish, Sagara, Gaya, Nahusha, Mandata, Alarka, Shatadanve, Anu, Rantideva, Bhishma, Bali, Amritaraya, Dalipa, Subari, Utanka, Shibi, Devala, Pipalada, Sarasvata, Udava, Parashara, Purishena, Vibhishana, Hanuman, Shukadev Goswami, Arjun, Arshishena, Vidura, Shrutadev, etc. Okay, purport. Who'd like to read the purport? I think it's one long paragraph. Okay.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Savior of the whole world, Ki Jai.
Okay.
All the greatest devotees of the Lord, as mentioned above, who flourish in the past or present, and all the devotees of the Lord who will come in the future, are always of different potencies of the Lord, along with the potency of his name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, personality, etc. And how do they know? Certainly, it is not by mental speculation, nor by any attempt by dint of limited instruments of knowledge. By the limited instruments of knowledge, either the senses or the material instruments like microscopes, telescopes, no one can even fully know the Lord's material potencies, which are manifested before our eyes. For example, there are millions and billions of planets far, far beyond the scientist's calculation, but there are only the manifestations of the Lord's material energy. What can the scientist hope to know of the spiritual potency of the Lord by such material efforts? Mental speculations by adding some dozens of ifs and maybes cannot aid the advancement of knowledge. On the contrary, such mental speculation will only end in despair by dismissing the case abruptly and declaring the non-existence of God. The same person therefore ceases to speculate on the subjects beyond the jurisdiction of his tiny brain, and as a matter of course he tries to learn to surrender unto the Supreme Lord, who alone can lead one to the platform of real knowledge. In the Upanishads, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be known simply by working very hard and taxing the good brain, nor can he be known simply by mental speculation and jugglery of words. The Lord is knowable only by one who is a surrendered soul. Herein, Brahmaji, the greatest of all material living beings, acknowledges this truth. Therefore, the fruitless spoiling of energy by pursuing the path of experimental knowledge must be given up. One should gain knowledge by surrendering unto the Lord and acknowledging the authority of the persons mentioned herein. The Lord is unlimited, and by the grace of the Yoga Maya helps the surrendered soul to know him proportionately with the advance of one's surrender. So Prabhupada.
Okay. Again, Tremendasya Ganadana Shlakayo Chaksun Nutamina Tasma Shri Gove Namaha. I was born into darkness, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances unto him. So, this is a series of verses here. Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada how the Lord has so many different appearances and incarnations throughout time, but ultimately he's unknowable. Narada Muni approached him, his father, and said, look, it appears that you're the creator and you know everything. And Lord Brahma went on to explain that actually it might look like I'm the creator, but I can't do anything without the inspiration and guidance of the Supreme Lord. So no matter how knowledgeable or powerful one is, ultimately there's someone who's more powerful and more knowledgeable, and that's the Supreme Lord. And a couple of statements jump out at me here. This at the end, this last sentence, the Lord is unlimited, right? So it's very difficult for our brain, at least for my brain, to comprehend or understand what does that mean? What is unlimited? Like you think of every direction, going this way, there's no end, going that way, there's no end. It's just at a certain point, my brain gets out so far, then it just fizzles. It's like I can't really comprehend eternality. It's like forever. It's like, well, what does that mean? Unlimited. And an earlier statement, the tiny brain, the same person therefore ceases to speculate on subjects beyond the jurisdiction of his tiny brain. So one thing that helps me sometimes, because we have some mental capacity and we can think of things and there's some intelligence, and so we tend to think, well, I can figure stuff out, and then we start to get a little confident that we have some knowledge, we can do things. But our brain is, I don't know, is this 1 cubic foot or 10 inches, or I don't know, it's a relatively small space, and the universe is, well, unlimited. So then just logically, how much can I understand? I might think I'm very intelligent. I was listening to a class last week. The Bhaktivinoda Institute is doing a summer series of classes. And I realized I'm clearly not a scientist. I understand the words they're saying, they're speaking English, but the concepts they're talking about are just like, I couldn't repeat it. I can't understand. So we have limited capacity. And so it's very important here to understand. We talked about this a little bit last time, and I had some more thoughts I wanted to mention about this authority and resistance to authority. But we have to accept knowledge and guidance from a superior source. So ultimately, when we understand at a very deep level, and it's kind of tricky, it's a dynamic that's a little bit tricky, because we have to act as though I know what to do and I have to use all my energy to do it. And if you ever have a service or a task that's a little challenging, you have to put your mind into it. You got to think about it. It's like if you don't, it's not going to get done. But inside, we have to understand I'm helpless. I can't do anything. But externally, if we just act like I'm helpless, nothing gets done. The feast doesn't get cooked. Students don't get their lunch. My boss doesn't pay me because I didn't do anything. Like, we have to actually do things. But inside, we have to understand my brain is only this big, and so how much can I really understand? I'm dependent upon the mercy of the Lord. I'm dependent upon intelligence. And it talks in Bhagavad Gita. Intelligence comes from Krishna. If we think we have some ability, yes, we may have some ability. We do have abilities. That ability comes from Krishna. And so it's an interesting dynamic. I think of Arjuna often. I think I've mentioned this before, that if you look at the battle of Kurukshetra, you can see very clearly that Arjuna was very powerful, very skilled, and he won this battle. You filmed it, that would be obvious. If you talk to Arjuna, I'm convinced, I've never spoken to him, but I've convinced myself that if you asked him, how did you do it? He would say, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. This was all Krishna. This was Krishna's arrangement. I was just a puppeteer. I was just, whatever direction he made me move, I moved. And so this is the goal of our life, is to be controlled by the Supreme Lord, to where when we understand my body, my intelligence, everything I am came into being because the Supreme Lord gave me existence. So everything belongs to him. So I'm his servant. Let me just do what he wants me to do. And then we're controlled by him. And at first it sounds a little daunting. Well, I don't want to be controlled all the time. I have some free will. But the fact is, we're controlled anyway. We're controlled by our desires. We're controlled by our senses. We're controlled by the three modes. We're controlled by our anger or lust or whatever material things are there are controlling us. So we're going to be controlled. So let's shift that and let's be controlled by the Supreme Lord. Because when we allow ourselves to be controlled by the Supreme Lord, then we're happy. We're ecstatic, because then we're situated in our constitutional position, and the soul is very satisfied. But I want to make one comment about, before we talked about authority, because this series of verses, it talks about the authority, and it mentions in this purport also that the materialist doesn't accept the authority of the Supreme. They think, well, we can figure it out. We can use our instruments and our science to figure it out. And science has a place. Without science, we wouldn't have a microphone. We wouldn't have lights and things. So it's certainly got a place. But this we want to surrender to the authority of the Supreme, but that doesn't mean we surrender to all authority. Sometimes we have to rebel. For example, most devotees are very rebellious in the sense that they don't accept the authority of the material energies. They don't accept the authority of the materialists. Materialists won't tell you to, spend your whole life trying to surrender your will. Materialists have values of, let me just satisfy my senses, let me accumulate a lot of money, let me become powerful, and I'll be successful. And we reject that. So there are authorities that we don't subscribe to. We say, no, that's not going to make me happy. Now, we may not always know that externally. Sometimes we have to learn that through whether we're reading or associating with devotees or our own experience. We try it and we find out that, A, it's very difficult. Making money is very difficult. You see these companies that make money, they spend billions of dollars to try to make a few dollars. It's not an easy thing to do. And then when you do it, you have so many problems. To hire so many lawyers to protect your money and different things. And then when you do it, if you are successful, it doesn't give you happiness. And there's so much evidence of that. People who are very, very wealthy jumping off buildings and doing all kinds of weird things because they're not ultimately happy. So then we can understand there must be something else. But the point is, we have to know which authorities to surrender to and which ones to rebel against. Because we can't just, everybody's an authority. You go on the internet, you talk to any salesperson, anything you want to do, everybody's an authority. Oh, no, you should do it this way. Here, give me your money, I'll fix everything. So you have to know, no, I don't, this one I trust, this one not so much. So we have to discriminate. And how do we do that? And the answer is given in this last sentence, by surrendering, process of surrender. I used to think for, 10 or 20 years of my devotional life, I thought surrender was a one-time thing. If I can just muster up the strength, just make a big surrender, then we can just sail. So that was just trying to get the courage to surrender. And then I realized, and a couple times I did that, and it was wonderful, and I was very happy. And over time, over years, I realized, well, I got to do it again and again, and then as more time went on, I said, God, you got to do it every day. You got to do it every minute of every day. Like every second, we got to surrender. We're always thinking, our mind's going here. We go, no, I don't want to. And so it's an ongoing process. It becomes easier as we get accustomed to it, and as we realize that as we surrender, as this last statement makes, then Krishna gives us, he reveals who he is and how he acts, and he reciprocates with us. And so then it becomes an enjoyable thing, and it becomes, okay, what else can I do to surrender? What more ways can I surrender? Because it becomes a very sweet relationship with the Lord. As we surrender, then he also reciprocates. But it's an ongoing dynamic. So I was thinking of a question. I don't know if this is a fair question, but I want to ask it anyway. I think it's not an unreasonable question. But I want you to think about, I'm not sure how to ask this. How do I say this? Think about a time or an experience where you've surrendered or tried to surrender and have felt or experienced the reciprocation of the Lord, of Krishna, either directly, like internally, he revealed something to you, or just through externally, something happened and devotee had some interaction, and you realize, yes, this devotional service is all alive and real. What I'm trying to do is connect, because I'm sure you've all experienced it, that the fact that you're here means a certain level of surrender. You could be somewhere else. You could be a donut shop or sleeping or so many other things, but you're here because there's some taste, there's some gratification you get from engaging in this bhakti yoga. So does that question make sense? Is that fair? Okay, you had your hand up, you have a microphone?
I think this example would fit your question. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But I was really endeavoring to make this cake, and I bought all like the best ingredients, and it was for my spiritual master actually. So I went like all out. I was like getting like the best ingredients and like planning. Like I had this beautiful image in my head of just like how the cake would look, and like it would be like multiple tiers, and like it'd be this frosting, and like like going off, like I spent weeks like just thinking about it. And then the day came to make the cake, and it did not go as I planned. Like my expectations were just so high on like how to make it perfect and beautiful, and it did not turn out beautiful. It was like quite the opposite. And so in that moment, I really had to just surrender, like Krishna, like I'm not perfect. Like here's what I was able to make. And he ended up really liking it actually, but it wasn't beautiful, and it wasn't the image I had in my head. Um, and I was really disappointed and like sad when I realized it couldn't be the image I had in my head. But yeah, the moment that I did surrender, I guess, or that process of surrendering to that cake situation, yeah, I did see some reciprocation.
Yeah,
afterwards.
that's a good example. And he was pleased. So then that's the perfection of life, right? So the endeavor was successful. Yes.
The first time I kind of learned about the principle of spiritual surrender was in 12-step programs. That third step's turning our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood them. It's like you kind of give up your own plans. And there was one time I had always known about, that program and everything since I was younger. And one time when I had called out to the Lord under certain distress, I was like high and drunk, and I was in a lot of actual physical danger at that time. And yeah, I called out to him from my heart and asked for help. And that was like Friday evening, and by Monday morning, I was like clean and sober, and did never drink or smoke or anything again. You know, he just like removed that obstacle in my life. But yeah, so I feel like he listens like when we really tell him that.
Nice. Yeah, nice example. Thank you. Use your microphone in the back, please.
Hare Krishna. So I have this problem with migraines. I get a lot of migraines. The situation is, okay, I'm in my room, I have a migraine, and I fall unconscious for a couple of hours. Just a loss of time. But there are way more dangerous situations in which to get migraines. Yesterday was one. I had a really tough day. I had to go to Orlando, had some really disappointing meetings with people, and connected to some work that I was doing. And like on the way, it was raining intensely, and my migraine flared up. And we're on the highway where there are these massive trucks and these cars swerving at like 80 miles an hour. And I'm like, I can't pay attention to the road, and I'm all alone. I'm driving my car all alone. And there was this moment where I, I could not pay attention, and I swerved. If I had, and at that moment, something I do not know what to control, but my legs, hit the brake at the right time. If I had missed by like a second, I'd probably not be here. It was really close. And I just came back, and I was in so much pain. I just went to sleep. And it's only when I woke up in the morning that I realized, wow, I'm alive. Like literally, there's this picture of, a beautiful picture of the Jaladuta, and behind it there's this massive picture of like the entire spiritual world, all the associates standing behind the ship, the Jaladuta, while it is, going through those storms. So I felt like that, like literally Krishna was, driving that car. And I felt um, like he accepts whatever surrender we're able to give him.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you for sharing that. There's a statement, I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but something to the effect that Krishna takes whatever, even the smallest offering, and he turns it into the biggest thing. He fans the spark. He accepts the smallest. The smallest bit of surrender or faith or love that we can muster, he takes that and he just treats it. One of the stories that really highlights this is the Sudam Brahmana. He grew up with Krishna, and later Krishna was a king living in Mathura, but a lot of opulence. Sudam went to visit him, and he was very poor. He just had a little bag of some puffed rice. And when he got there, and he had begged it from his friends, and his wife had gathered some, and so he thought he would offer this. But then when he got there and he saw the opulence of Krishna's palace, and so he said, I can't offer this to Krishna. This isn't appropriate. And Krishna snatched it from me. He brought something for me, and he took it. Oh, thank you very much. And he was so happy that he brought him that. So yeah, it doesn't take much. An image comes to mind that you've probably seen sometime. There'll be, whether in a kirtan or just, normal events, there'll be a small child and they'll walk up to the parents and they'll put his hands up to say, pick me up, pick me up. And so, of course, the father and mother could pick them up anyway, but when the hands are there, it makes it very easy to grab them and pick them up. And so this is very important for us to understand that when we surrender, we're asking, please pick me up, give me shelter. And the challenge that we have, the primary challenge is just our pride. It's our pride that prevents us from just surrendering and reaching. We think, well, I can do it. And we're taught, at least in American culture and Western culture, we're taught from a very early age, you shouldn't depend on other people. You should do it yourself. You should be strong. You should be able to get by. You should be tough. You should be able to figure this out. And the idea of asking for help, it kind of goes against the culture. But we have to overcome that, because this pride is what brings us to the material world in the first place. And the pride is what keeps us in the material world. It's pride and envy, and the two are sort of kind of bundled together. We become so full of ourselves. And once I heard a nice lecture by His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami. He's saying we go through the world, and it's not that we think we see other people, and it's not that we think, am I better than them? We know we're better than them. We just think, how am I better than them? In what way am I better than them? Right? If we watch our mind and say, oh, I'm better in this way, I'm better in that. I'm glad I'm not that person. You know? So our pride goes so deep. And so when we get to the root of that and we start to realize, look, I'm a helpless living entity. The material energies overpower us. Because the reality is that we can't overcome the material energies. We will never be able to overcome the material energies. If we could overcome them, we wouldn't be here. Right? And so when we understand that and say, well, in spite of all my intelligence and all my ability and all these good qualities I think I have, I'm a conditioned soul and I'm lost and I'm stuck. So Krishna, please help me, guide me. What would you like me to do? And that part of the thing we have to be aware of or conscious of is that there's a tendency to think, well, when I'm qualified, I can ask for this kind of help. When I'm purified, then I can go to Krishna and expect his help. But we have to develop the mentality that Krishna, in my current condition of being conditioned and fallen and unable, and I've got a migraine, I can't function, how can I serve you? In this fallen state of contamination or of inability or of forgetfulness or whatever it is we're feeling, how can I serve you? What can I do for you? And then that starts to chip away at this pride. We realize just I'm helpless. And the more we cultivate that, then the more we find ourselves able to do things that we never thought we could do. And because Krishna helps us. So as we chip away at this pride and this false ego, this ahankara, it's the definition is false ego, but what it means is the sense of I, the sense of I'm the doer. This is me. And in reality, there is no I, because we're a small atom fragment of Krishna. We're part and parcel of him. So the reality is Krishna. And then we're just part of that picture. We're his servant. So we can certainly, we have an existence, obviously. And when we're situated in that, then we feel very happy and very satisfied. But we're not happy and satisfied because of I, we're happy and satisfied because of Krishna. Krishna is the center. Let me remember that and lose the sense of I and mine. I mean mine was a book George Harrison wrote. It kind of highlights this sense of the false ego. So anyway, the point is this pride and this false ego is very deeply rooted, and we chip away at it. Then very rapidly we feel Krishna's reciprocation. We start to feel some relief, and that's kind of what's being described here by Lord Brahma about trying to understand Krishna. It's not externally, because all the measurements of the scientists or the materialistic mentality, it's all based on the what we can see and touch and feel and hear. It's all the elements of material nature. In reality, is spiritual. Earth, air, fire, water, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Those are all material. They're not real. And then the soul is separate from that. So there's a whole reality, internal reality and spirituality where the soul lives that has nothing to do with the senses. It might It might involve the senses, but it's not dependent upon them. It generally is independent on a separate sphere. But when we're situated on that sphere, the senses are enlivened, they're happy. So that was my thoughts on this. And sometimes it's dramatic, like what we talked about times with the cake or with the life changes and stuff. And I've had those moments where, okay, I'll do something and reciprocate. But a lot of times it's just in smaller things. What should I do? How do I understand this? How do I get through the day? Or what is this problem I'm trying to solve? How should I look at it? And just understand that Krishna is your friend. He's your best friend, and he wants to help you. But he's not going to force himself. So if you're not asking for help, it's all right, you got it covered, fine, I'll stay out of it and let you get all tangled up if that's what you want to do. But it's not like he's sitting on a throne in a faraway place and you have to be dressed in perfect silk and very pious in order to approach him. No, he's your best friend. Say, Krishna, help. I can't figure this out. I'm not sure what I should do. And develop that mentality, that understanding of I'm too full of pride. I think I can figure all this out. So those are some thoughts I had. I guess let's see if anyone else had any thoughts or questions or corrections or comments on this idea of yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. I grew up in the movement, and so I've always heard like leave it up to Krishna, like kind of just putting it in Krishna's sphere. But I guess I'm trying to understand, like, when do we know when to stop our like endeavor and effort? Like, I mean, yeah, how do we know like when to say like, okay, Krishna, it's in your hands now, like, because I think I struggle with that. Like, I just kind of want to keep going.
As soon as you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes, you understand, okay, Krishna, what do I do? Before we start the endeavor, what do I do? Because we think we know. I know if I gather these materials, if I do this, if I do this. But at every step, it's like, I think I know. And again, it's tricky because back to Arjuna example, Arjuna, from a material perspective, he was a Kshatriya, he was a warrior, he was trained, he knew how to fight, he was an archer, he was the best archer on the planet, he knew how to shoot arrows. So technically, he had the skills. But when the push came to shove and it's time for the battle, he said, Krishna, I want you on my side. He said, but I'll come, but I'm not going to fight. My army's going to be on the other side. He said, Arjuna's happy. That's fine. You don't need to fight, and I don't need your army. I just want you. Because if you're with me, if you're by my side, I'll be victorious. It's not about material strength or anything else. So it's tricky because we have some skills, and so we don't want to negate that and say, well, I don't know what to do. Well, we might know what to do, but we can also make mistakes, and we do it. We use our skills, and then actually, I did something wrong. I didn't calculate this right. It was awry. So, at least for me, my answer would be: as soon as you open your eyes, like, okay, Krishna, what help me get through the day. Let me get through the next 5 minutes. What do I think I understand what I'm going to do, but maybe I need an adjustment. Maybe I'm not seeing it clearly. And if we take that through everything we do all the time, we're always thinking of him. And it's interesting and it's fun sometimes because we'll get ideas. And one of the things that's important, at least to me that's important, is to look for reciprocation. Look for signs that Krishna is reciprocating. Because the fact is he's always reciprocating. But because we're so full of pride and our own false ego, we don't see it. We think, well, I figured this out or that. But when we have this helpless mood of, okay, Krishna, I need you to help me and guide me, we'll get ideas. We'll try this and try that. We'll say, oh, where did that thought come from? we tend to think, well, that thought came from me and my bright intelligence. But it's like, well, no, where does intelligence come from? It's coming from Krishna. So then we realize, oh, thank you, Krishna. That's a really good idea. Yeah, that's going to work. And so then it becomes stronger and we learn how to listen. Super soul, Krishna is very subtle. He won't force. So it's like a whisper, he'll try this. Did you think of that? And if we say, no, I don't want to do that, I'm going to do this. Okay. It's like, he's not going to force. He'll let us tangle ourselves up into a knot, if that's what we want. But if we want his guidance, then he'll give it. And the more we act on it, then the more we'll guide it. So, long-winded answer. Does that help? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I really like that answer too. I got just one reflection and then a question. I like that answer. My god brother told me one time, I was like, I'll be waking up in the morning sometimes and my body's sore and I get a little confused about the first action to do. He said, just start chanting. That's really the best thing is like, as soon as you wake up, just grab your japa bag and just start, chanting, and then you'll figure it out. And my favorite prayer I say every morning in my head before I can even speak is the long version of the Serenity Prayer. And my favorite line in it is like what we're talking about. It said, believing that if we surrender to his will, he'll make all things right. So like what you were talking about earlier about we can surrender unto him so we can be, available for him to kind of guide us. But I was like, I always try to remind myself like why is because he's gonna make everything right in my life. And that doesn't mean perfect either. And the next line it says, so that I can be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. That's the end of the prayer. So I was just try to remember like he's gonna make it right. I can be reasonably happy if I have a relationship with the Lord, and then beyond this life, it can be something better. That's what I try to think about as far as the surrender principle, keep it simple. And then my question is, I like Srila Prabhupada, he said, we can't try to figure out things with our tiny brains. And you're talking about like the vast scope of existence. But then my question is, like, what about the distance that, consciousness can travel? Because we kind of have, our brain is kind of like this dynamite in a small package. It can, right, we're trying to be Krishna consciousness and expand it. Like everybody talked about expanding your consciousness. So is there anything you can tell us about that?
Well, I don't know how much I can speak to that. My consciousness is not so expanded, but I think the same principle applies because yes, we can expand our consciousness. And that's one of the benefits of studying and reading the Bhagavatam. So while we may not understand anything, and I've gone through this, I've told people for years, I said, don't try to understand Krishna, just try to love Krishna. Because trying to understand him, ultimately we can't. But then I heard a lecture a week or so ago, and Prabhupada was saying, we should study the Bhagavatam, and we should understand, or we should know that we'll never fully understand Krishna, but the act of trying to understand him purifies us and pleases him, and it expands our consciousness. There was a reading, we were, some devotees, we were reading the Sandarbhas, and Jiva Goswami's writings are just like unbelievable. And he establishes that how the Bhagavatam is the topmost essence of all knowledge. But the way he establishes is through all these word by word, detailed, descriptions. And it's like, I don't understand 90% of it, but just hearing it expands your mind and you start to see things from a broader perspective. Okay, I don't know everything I just heard, but wow, I can now see things from a broader perspective than I could before. And so that can help to expand our consciousness. And certainly as we tune into the super soul and we tune into who we are as spiritual entities, But again, we're conscious of our body. Prabhupada gives the example, but I'm conscious if my toes hurt or I got a cut on my finger, but I'm not conscious if your toe hurts. Like, so we'll expand our consciousness, but we'll never be able to expand it to where we understand what everybody's experiencing. So this sort of the same principle applies, that if we need for our service to be aware of many, many things, Srila Prabhupada would walk across the field and you would see, why is that water dripping out there in that little spigot, which you can't see because the grass is covering it and it's a mile away. And so his consciousness, he could understand these nails on that building over there, they're cheating you, they're giving you poor quality nails. Like, so yes, your consciousness can expand if it's needed for your service. Krishna will give you that ability. But it's not that we can do that on our own. And I like what you said about getting up and chanting. It fascinates me. I did a little, not a deep study, but I was doing a class about presentation about prayer. I was looking at all the prayers in the Bhagavatam, and I went through the Nrsimhadev prayer, which Prabhupada gave the devotees to chant. The temple in Los Angeles was attacked, and so he gave the Nrsimhadev prayer to chant, to protect the temple. He also said put up gates and stuff. But that prayer, the Nrsimhadev prayer was given as protection. But if you read the word for word translation of Nrsimhadev prayer, there's no request for protection. It just glorifies the Lord. Nowhere it asks, please protect me. And so there's one song, a devotee, I think her name was Karnamrita Devi, maybe. Anyway, you probably heard this song. It's not the whole song, but it's from a verse in the Bhagavatam. Krishna Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. That's just one line, and then she repeats it over and over. So that when I was driving one day, and somehow I memorized that. And I was fascinated because it's not a prayer. It's not even really a mantra. It's just names of Krishna and his associates. And when you chant that over and over, you just start to feel happy. So a lot of our service, a lot of our morning program, they're just chanting Krishna's names and glorifying Krishna and the spiritual masters. And so yeah, so you get up first thing in the morning and chant Hare Krishna mantra, and ultimately Hare Krishna mantra, right? It's just names. It has meaning behind, Krishna this, Krishna that, but really it's just names of Radharani and Krishna. And whatever the meaning is kind of what you're putting into it. So yeah, these things are really good. I don't know if that answers your question. That's for there's a microphone in the back.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for class. It's always a pleasure. I like what you said about the sincerity of wanting to understand the Lord is qualification enough, because when I hear that I can't, my fragile male ego is insulted.
Yeah.
I'm like, you'll see.
Yeah, right.
So like, what is understanding? Like, what's the process of trying to understand something I'm led to? And ultimately, I don't think you can understand anything, even infinity. There's multiple different types of infinity. Between 1 and 2 is a set of infinite numbers. So anything itself is infinite in nature, and it reflects everything else. So Mushimato, he once said, once you understand the way broadly, you see it in all things. And I think understanding Krishna gives you a sneak peek into a window of infinity, because reading his pastimes, they pretty much cover all aspects of being. And yeah, I just find it very fascinating that, one, I can't understand anything, but I'm still given an opportunity to. So I think it's the process of trying to understand is just itself understanding. So I think the answer is in and of itself, like a challenge to rise, and then the process of trying to understand. It made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it's nice. Thank you for that. And that's a nice perspective, because the process of trying to understand something we can't understand is useful. It helps. And Krishna, as this verse mentions, he'll give us that understanding. It's not that we won't or can't understand. It's that where does understanding come from? Does it come from my ability and my effort, or does it come because Krishna gave it to me? And yeah, Krishna will give us so much understanding. So I guess I'll stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all glories to some of the devotees.